We gotta talk about the new Beyblade news that has come out where the base leaked again! Hello everyone, welcome to Zencast, where we talk about Beyblade topics, and we are finally back at it again after another long hiatus, because that machine refuses to work most of the time, but I'm joined here by my co-host Nizuma.
Yo, what's up everybody? Thanks for having me.
So we have a lot to catch up on in terms of releases. So I thought we'll just do a quick segment just talking about what are your thoughts on like the November stuff of like Saber, Garuda, Mail, that stuff.
Garuda, it just feels like pretty painfully average to me. Saber was a good release. Level, I think, is like a very interesting bit. I really like using it. Mail also, I think, is pretty underrated actually at this point. It's starting to see more use, but I definitely think it's pretty slept on. So Mail, I think, is great. 85, not so much. But yeah, the blade itself, I think, is pretty good.
I thought Saber Blade was pretty decent enough for attack, and a lot of people use it for defense. I know there's like some weird elevate combo I've seen. Level's really good. It has a lot of stamina. It's kind of hard to control sometimes because of the 16 gears, but I've seen it have a lot of good use. Mostly on like Arrow, Rod, because it's Wizard Rod, you know, blades like that.
Yeah.
Let me think what else. Night Mail, like you were saying, I think it's really good for attack, and I actually think it's like pretty nice for defense too, because it actually has decent weight, and it's like kind of good to hold its position a lot of times in the stadium. Oh yeah, Garuda, I don't know, I just... Without 760, I think it's really bad. No, mostly it's like, you couldn't really use it. 760, I think, not that bad. Kind of just like the Shark Blade, just a little bit less upper, more smash, but it's okay. Transpoint, I don't know, it's inconsistent.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel.
Oh my god, the best release ever, Ghost Circle. What are we, S tier, right?
Ah, man, I really wish it was better than it is. It looks really cool. I do like 080 a decent bit. It's probably the only 80 height ratchet I would actually consider using it. Like, there's some arguments for some others on like some niche stuff, but like 080, I like a decent bit. But the blade, you're definitely going to be fighting an uphill battle if you try to use that, for sure.
Feel like it's again like someone at TT is like, okay, we'll make it a circle. Oh, that's a really good idea. Circle stamina time. Let's make it 26 grams. Like, why? And people will say like, oh, well, we don't want to have another Wizard Rod or whatever. But I think in my head, one, Silver Wolf is pretty competitive with Rod. Not the best, but decent at least. And people forget, like, in year one of Beyblade X, I have to turn that off, that's my bad. We had Phoenix Wing, Hell Scythe, what is it, Wizard Arrow, Unicorn Sting, Hell's Chain, shit. We had like maybe like 4 or 5 competitive stamina blades. Hey guys, are we forgetting?
Yeah, I think they're afraid of like it taking over the meta, I guess. But I mean, they could have made it a little bit heavier, a few grams heavier, and like, I don't know. It does look really cool, though. Aesthetically, I do really like the way that it looks.
I think the best combo is maybe some wacky defense, because the issue is because it's so light, it'll just bounce around, which in theory could mean your opponent depletes a lot of stamina because you're constantly moving around, which is, I guess, kind of what the manga was hinting towards, but you usually just get weight bullied. And it's funny because even in the low weight, I think I made some joke where it was like over like 20 rounds, it was like in a mirror match against Rod, it maybe won like maybe 3 times out of 20.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Shit. I mean, I think like against attack, if you're able to avoid for a little bit, I think you might have an okay chance, depending on the build. But it's just, it's just going to be one of those things that's going to be hard to be consistent with, especially depending on what the matchup is.
I would recommend, if you're using Ghost, maybe a Hexa or some shit like that. I don't know, maybe 760 to boost the weight a little bit. The thing people got to realize too is that if you ever talk about a part and it's very, very high skill, that's probably going to mean that if people are going to tier it, it's going to be really low, because that requires too much work for the average person to really make good. Doesn't mean you can't win with it, it just means not.
Yeah, speaking of which, I did a tier list update video yesterday, and I always get a lot of comments when I rank things low. And they'll be like, "Oh, it's just a skill issue." I was like, "Well, I mean, here's the thing though, like when you're talking about like what you think is objectively good and bad, there's subjective is completely different. But when we're talking about what is objectively good and bad in Beyblade, the stuff that is going to be the most consistent with the lowest amount of effort is going to be at the top. The stuff that you have to like do some sort of special super anime technique to win with is going to be much lower. If it's harder to win with, it's just lower. It's just how it goes. Like I joke about Leon Claw all the time, but I think I have it in C tier right now. So I mean, you gotta be realistic.
Yeah.
Like I may like something and I may be able to do okay with something. Like I feel like I'm pretty consistent with Leon Claw, get some things, but just because I can do that doesn't mean that it's good. Unfortunately, with some of these lighter releases or these like bad weight distribution or bad shapes or whatever, like it's just how it goes. Like Garuda, I don't think is terrible, but it's just the shape doesn't do much. The weight's okay, but it just doesn't do that much.
If you can win with it, power to you. But yeah, I pissed off a lot of Tusk Mammoth fans when I did that Tusk Mammoth video. They just want to kill me.
Yeah, I mean, that's I try to say that in every video. If you can make it work, use it. That's sort of like my motto. If you can get it to work, use it. Like, don't let me or anybody else stop, but don't be mad at me because I just don't like it that much. But I also like, people get mad at me because I still have I don't have Buster in S tier. I don't even think I have it in A tier. I think it's still in B tier. But I don't like glass cannons. So, it gives you, some stuff just comes down to preference,
Mm-hmm. Speaking of last cannons, Impact Drake, the last one.
Yeah, I think it's, we got Dracula too. I think Impact is better Buster. I think it's Buster 2.0. Functionally, I think it's very glass cannon-y. It hits hard. I think it doesn't die as quick as Buster, which is why I say it's better Buster. But it suffers sort of like a similar issue where if something doesn't happen early game, like by late game, it's going to struggle.
I used Impact Drake, I think it was like 760 low rush, because I was talking to Kia and I was asking what do you observe, and I saw like some combos posted on Japan Twitter. 770 rush, so I either like it where it's a tall build to like slam down, or super, super low, so like 760 like low rush. And what I came down to seeing it was pretty much what you just said. And technically this is every attack type, but this was literally like, if I did not get it at the start, it was going to be very, very hard. So like, I thought 760 could help because 760 kind of has the bullshit deflection on it. But yeah, I think also what else? You did a good video on 460, I think it was. That's a good ratchet also if you want to use it.
Yeah, 460 taper. And I hate 460. So I think that's the only combo I've ever recommended with like 460. I think you can use it, or you could have used it back in the day on like Hellscythe. A lot of people were doing that, but I think this is like the only combo that I've recommended on 460, just because the way it lines up with the blade or whatever. I do like it on that, and I like it on taper over rush, just because I feel like it's the stamina is a little better than rush, but you could use either, honestly. But the other thing that I have noticed about Impact is like sometimes depending on where it makes contact, like sometimes it hits really hard, and then other times when it makes contact with like certain parts of the rubber, it just sort of like bounces. Yeah. Like it doesn't really hit. It just sort of like bounces back and does nothing, which I guess is the shock absorption, which doesn't help it.
No, that's what I've noticed when it's against like similar weight class, because what happens is because the rubber's trying to hold on to the opponent, it can't use enough energy to deflect it, so it ends up like the force goes thrown against it. Like someone who knows like physics maybe better for Beyblade can explain it, but speaking of Beyblades, a big announcement, or at least recruitment, Kai Cenat basically wants Beyblade influencers, or like people who do like the Beyblade hobby, because he wants to host something like really, really big. And I think this is like so good for Beyblade, just to see such a big influencer have interest and like want to really get like the name of Beyblade out there. It
is good. It's like the more of these big streamers that like cover this stuff, I think the better, because like they're huge now. Like they have such an enormous following. They're basically celebrities at this point, which is crazy to think about how much that whole landscape of streaming and stuff has changed over the years. Like, more exposure is good for the hobby. It's also good because a lot of the viewer base for a lot of these big streamers like this are kids. So whether or not he actually does a tournament, I have no idea. If he does, that'd be sick. I'm pretty sure he's in Georgia. So if he hosts one in Georgia, then I'm pretty close to that. So I could go. I'd be curious if it actually happens. I think it's good to get more exposure, especially to kids. Like, toy culture is like so different in America than it is in like the Asia regions and Japan and stuff. It's very hard to pull kids away from video games these days. So the more streamers that these kids see like invested in these hobbies, I think the better, even if it's just for a short period of time.
Yeah, and I think if anyone can accomplish getting a lot of influencers to do something big, it's probably going to be like an influencer that like Kai or like these very big streamers, because I don't really think Hasbro or TT combined has the resources to pull it off. We're already in the new generation, and he has already shown interest in Beyblade X, so this would like skyrocket the popularity. I just want to see kind of, because I feel like Beyblade's always had this reception where it's kind of just like the metal fight people, but we could finally get real Beyblade fans that like Beyblade for more than just like nostalgia, metal fight, and like other stuff.
Most of the average people like have no idea that there is a competitive scene for Beyblade, or that the competitive scene isn't just a bunch of like nerds just, you know, playing with toys or whatever. I don't think a lot of the average population probably doesn't understand how deep the competition and stuff goes, that some parts are better than others, or that there's a meta, or like that there's deck format or 3-on-3 or like any of the structure of that. Like, most of the comments that I saw on like posts in relation to that from people who aren't in Beyblade were like, I had no idea that competitive Beyblade was even a thing, or I didn't even know Beyblade was still around, or how do you win a Beyblade tournament? I thought you just pulled it and prayed. So it would be interesting just for exposure to, like, for people to be aware that it's closer to a trading card game than it is to just random RNG. Hobbies like this, where you're interacting with people like physically and socially in public, is so much more beneficial than sitting in front of a screen and, you know, screaming at somebody for 6 hours because you want to, you know, play ranked in Apex or Marvel or, you know, Fortnite or whatever. Like, it's better for you. It's better for your psyche. Whether it's this, whether it's a trading card game or a tabletop game like Warhammer or whatever. Like, I just think getting people back into social hobbies is just generally, I think, a good thing for society.
So speaking of society is going to experience the future of Beyblade with custom line CX.
Oh, yeah. CX. What do you... I've heard a bunch of rumors and leaks.
I want y'all to understand how fucking crazy it is when we were talking about it, because this was before we got the system leak, which more or less what we say in this doesn't really change at all. We're pretty much just talking about it, only now we got like videos that have surfaced on apparently how to assemble, and we've gotten a more accurate version of the system that we can actually see. So that one, huge shout out to Royal Kaiju Blader, by the way, for any of the art illustration. Essentially, it just seems like Chip holds the thing together, metal is metal, and there's a plastic assist blade, I guess, and that assist blade will, I guess, act as something similar to that of frames in Beyblade Burst, or kind of like the bottom part of Zero G for the crystal wheel.
Okay, so it's like, it's like stock Zero G, so no double metal wheels, or inverted fusion system, basically. So
yeah,
basically the plastic parts on the bottom, metal parts on the top, and then some sort of faceplate. I'm totally down for this. I kind of expected it, some sort of like additional piece or whatever. My only hope is that they keep everything balanced.
Yeah.
I hope that they don't do any sort of massive weight creep when they do the change. I'm assuming with the whole bolt thing, eventually they'll probably do some sort of metal bolt or metal chip or whatever. Yeah. So I'm expecting that, but I'm hoping that the actual blades themselves don't creep past too much past 40 grams. They've done a really good job for the past like year and some change of keeping everything between like 30 and 40 grams. So if they creep too much past that, I would hate to see everything released so far just like not be usable.
Yeah,
that would kind of suck. Yeah, I really, really don't want to see that level of weight creep. Like, I can understand some things seeing less use over time, but I would generally like to stay within a certain weight limit, just so like if you really like something that was released earlier on, you can keep using it, and you're not like it's not this because Burst got bad. Burst got real bad with weight creep. Like if you think about where they started with single layers, then where they ended, like it's obscene how much bigger and heavier things got. It's like not even the same system almost.
I obviously like the plastic generation idea of customization, like GT or Dynamite Battle, where they had like metal weights, so how like the weight distro on certain points of the blade or something. But you can still do that with plastic. You can just have a different plastic shape than other ones. So
yeah.
The only worry I have is not even weight creep, which hopefully they don't. I think at best maybe attack types get really heavy, but even then I'm not really worried. Like, Whale is super heavy, but it's a glass cannon. Impact is glass cannon. Like, I guess Phoenix Wing, that new mold, is really heavy, but it's not like the meta's broken or anything like that. If they do face bolts, is there going to be some issue in the structure where if you do some battles, the face bolt snaps? If it's, like, the same?
Yeah, I mean, depending on how it goes together, you could be dealing with issues with, I guess, whatever the support or the clear wheel equivalent, depending on how that goes in, you could deal with some pressure and some tension on that. But yeah, like you said, if there's a singular piece that's holding the blade and that other part together, as hard as X hits, that does add another point of failure. Like if Metal Fight face bolts do snap, I wouldn't say super regularly, but I've had them snap. I know Swift has had them snap. Like other competitive players have had them just, they're playing and they just shear off. I would be potentially concerned about that as well. Hopefully it's not a big issue, but like the more parts they add and the smaller the parts are, I think the more, the harder it's going to be to keep that structurally stable. If there is an issue, I'm sure they'll end up doing some sort of mold revision or whatever. They've been good about like reinforcing some of the stuff that has had issues.
I think something you mentioned, which is something I actually really love the idea of, is whenever you have like this locking part or like a part on top, you have like a metal variant. So you have like a bit chip, face bolts, metal face, the sparking core, a metal sparking core. I think it'd be really interesting to have like centralized weights and to have like a metal face chip thing, whatever they're going to call it. Like imagine like defense types, that would be really smart, where you could add extra weight. Like, let's say you have like a 760, and then like there's so much possibility in this. It would be crazy.
I mean, they could do that too with bits as well. Even if they didn't make the whole thing metal, they could make the shaft metal, and that would bring a decent amount of weight down. Same thing with ratchets. If they wanted to put some sort of metal ring in the center or something, they could do that. If they wanted to add weight into the other parts, I think they could, and I wouldn't mind that. I actually like, if they're going to weight creep things, I would prefer that it be ratchets and bits, because they're interchangeable with everything. Yeah. In terms of like forecasts for CX or what I'm hoping for 2025 though, I would like to see launcher accessories. Yes. We have like no launcher accessories.
Oh, we are getting
no. Oh, wait, well, are we?
Rubber grips.
No, I want something else, bro. Give me some weights or an angle compass or something. They got all these attachments. Like, let me stick something on my launcher. Like, I shouldn't have to 3D print everything. The little grip things, why haven't they made those? Like,
oh yeah, okay. We'll try to think what else.
Tournaments. We need where the Hasbro tournaments.
Shit.
Like, I think the UK is now has like some Hasbro stuff.
I think I
think there's a couple regions now that have official Hasbro tournaments. And North America has none.
Hopefully they start soon. Okay, here's an interesting question. Do you think when you're going to do these tournaments, it's going to be like how they do it in Japan, where there's going to be like a kids bracket, like a kids division, and like all ages? Or do you think they're going to alienate a lot of the old players and do the opposite of what Japan's doing and just have like the kids division?
I think it would be stupid to do it that way, because if a 6-year-old wins and goes to a national tournament or a world championship and ends up playing against a 30-year-old, it would be jarring. They would be super dumb to isolate the adult population at this point, because as of right now, like, I would say the adult population is carrying the brand. The social media presence for Beyblade is almost all adults, at least above like teenagers and up, at least I would say, for Beyblade, almost all in that age bracket. So it would be really dumb to isolate all of the creators that are the crutch of your brand right now, because they aren't really doing any advertising, and the advertising they are doing sucks. I saw a short they did earlier, and it was like, whoever wins this Beyblade battle, the other guy has to do push-ups, and they're like one fingering the little tiny launcher. They're like, wow, circular. I'm gonna have to send it to you. The guy loses, then he has to do a push-up. He can't even do a full push-up. I'm like, guys, please find somebody else.
That's the big issue. If you're gonna do it, at least do a full shit. I can do a push-up.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Like, if you're gonna have that be part of the video, at least get somebody that can do a push-up.
Okay, for the record, we're fucking around. You know what? It wasn't that bad of a thing. It was a little goof. It was a little goof. We weren't that serious on the thing. Shout out to the person in the social media.
Yeah, stay active, kids. Exercise. Don't be lazy and sit inside and play Fortnite all day.
Alrighty. What are you gonna plug at the end? What do we got?
Just the YouTube channel. If you guys want to come check me out, I do a lot of Beyblade content from Plastic Gen all the way to Beyblade X. You can find me at Nizuma Blader on YouTube. Yeah, come check me out and let me know in the comments how many push-ups you guys can do. I'm going to be reading the comments on his video as well. So don't be going down there and be like, I can do 500 push-ups. I'm going to ask for proof. I'm ex-military too. So, like, I'm going to be judging your push-ups hard.
We'll probably do a follow-up after we get all the CX news. So when is the CX news even? It's probably going to be around Valentine's Day, 13, 14. So we'll probably do a follow-up then. But hey, thank you all for watching. That's going to be it for now. Take care and bye.